Four-time Grammy nominee and winner, acclaimed pianist Geoffrey Keezer has built a remarkable career collaborating with artists across genres, from Diana Krall and Christian McBride to rock icon Sting. A former member of Art Blakey's Jazz Messengers, Keezer has performed with jazz legends like Joshua Redman and Jim Hall while creating approximately 20 albums as a bandleader. Praised by Time magazine for his virtuosity and musical intelligence, Keezer continues to captivate audiences worldwide while inspiring the next generation through masterclasses at prestigious universities, and we're very happy to have him on today. So good to see you. Thanks so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. So this is a special podcast slash interview for me. As I mentioned before we started recording, for the audience to have a reference of, how important your music is to people like myself. You're the first artist I'm going to be talking to who I've transcribed a little bit of.
Oh dear.
So
Okay.
so it's special for me. We're checking that off today. Um,
Yay.
so we're at the beginning of 2025. What, kind of fill me in on what's on the agenda for you this year and what you're looking forward to musically. Would love to hear about it.
Thank you. I'll let you. I'm curious, what is it that you transcribed that
So
I
I
played?
when you did this live um there's like a live YouTube video of you with Jim Hall playing
Oh,
one of his tunes, Furnished Flats,
oh
just
yeah.
so he took the first solo and then you took the second solo. So I did a portion of that, which I was really, really interesting to me. So
That was a blues in D flat, I think.
yeah, interesting key. Definitely not C or
Yeah.
so that was
Well,
great.
his tunes had a lot of puns and plays on words and the titles and things like that. So, because I think he said I don't remember who it was. Someone had written a piece called Six Flats Unfurnished. And so he wrote like the answer tune to that called Furnished Flats. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. But he had a lot of tunes like that. In terms of what's coming up, let's see. I've got a tour in a couple of weeks coming up of the Midwest with Jillian Margot, the vocalist. We're doing some duet things and some things with bands. We're playing in let's see, we're doing the Mid-Atlantic Jazz Fest in Bethesda, Maryland on February 15th. We're playing Ondi Music in Baltimore on February 16th with Lauren Wolf is going to be our special guest on
oh,
Vibes.
beautiful.
And then we go to St. Louis. We play a place called the Blue Strawberry on February 18th. And then we're playing the Bop Stop in Cleveland, I think on the 22nd. I want to say it's a Saturday. And then I go to my hometown of Eau Claire, Wisconsin. I'm playing with the symphony, the Chippewa Valley Symphony Orchestra, which is a community orchestra there that my mother was a founding member of on French horn. And this is their 50th anniversary of the orchestra. And so they asked me to write a piece celebrating, 50th anniversary and come play with them and stuff. And so that's kind of what's happening. I've got a bunch of writing things due, some big band charts, and writing some arrangements. And Jillian, Margot, and I, we just finished a new duet record that's going to come out in May. Because we go around, we play a lot of shows, but we realize that we actually need to have like because she's got her records and I've got my records, and I'm on one of hers and she's on one of mine. But we're like, the audience is like, well, what about can we buy what we heard tonight? So in May you will be able to do that.
Yeah,
Finally.
when you're doing, these different things, it's not just like you're in one musical headspace, and it's just you kind of have to wear many different hats. And I would think doing that, obviously it's challenging and everything, um, but exciting at the same time. So when someone approaches you to work with them for the first time, what's your mindset like? Because I think you worked with my friend Ivanic Pranay, the
Oh yeah.
harmonica player. So
Oh
let's
yeah,
say
he's
like some,
great.
yeah,
He's great.
we're
We've
playing together next week actually.
Oh, are
So
you? Yeah,
mhm,
we're doing he got a grant. We're doing some gigs in North Carolina in March.
yeah.
Yeah, but he's a super shredder, man. He's brilliant.
Definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, so if someone when someone approaches you to do a new project with them, um, So do you want to, for instance, see the music beforehand? Do you just like to kind of go in and meet them and just see what happens?
Yeah, yeah, I definitely want to see the music beforehand. And in the case of Ivanik, it was a Joe Beam project, but he had written arrangements of all of, these tunes, and they were quite challenging, very challenging, some of them on the piano. So yeah, as much time in advance as I have reasonably to practice, I'd like to have it.
Yeah.
Send
Or
me the
even
charts, man.
or even if someone calls you, for to play in their trio or quartet or something like that, and
Yeah.
it's even going to be, let's just say, oh, we're just going to call tunes or something. Is that something you would want to know beforehand as well, or you just
I
kind of?
think, well, it depends. I mean, I came up in an era like in the especially kind of in the late 80s and 90s when they were like for example George Coleman who's still active and still playing still at the top of his game like he's playing incredibly at 90 years old. But I worked with him quite a bit in the 90s, subbing for Harold Mayburn when Harold couldn't do the gig. And George never, he didn't do set lists. He didn't even verbally call tunes. He would just play, and you either knew it or you didn't. But it was great training for me because even if I didn't know the tune, and not only would he not tell you what it was, he would take it through all 12 keys too, and sometimes at blazing tempo. So it was really like you had to just go on like super radar satellite mode with your brain. But thankfully at the time, in that band, Jamil Nasser was playing bass, and different drummers. It was either Idris Muhammad or George Jr. was playing drums. But um, between, I learned to speed up my ears and try to listen really quickly and get my brain on like high gear because if I didn't know the tune, I would listen to the roots that Jamil was playing and the melody note that George was playing and like well, if the bass is playing F and George is playing A, well, I know it's major. I still
Mhm.
don't know if it's I don't know if it's major seven or dominant, but George does a lot of arpeggiation and he plays like he really outlines the changes clearly. You can always hear exactly what the chord changes are with George. So I would figure it out, and then I would challenge myself to kind of memorize these tunes by after one chorus going by, and the thing is, if you're playing like American songbook type tunes, a lot of those songs are similar in terms of it's like AABA form or something, and the bridge is gonna like generally go up a third, or it's gonna go up a fourth, or it's gonna do something. It's gonna move in some kind of predictable way because these songwriters were cranking out songs like every day. You have to write 10 new songs, so they are a bit formulaic, so that makes it easier once you sort of figure out how those songs work to kind of guess and predict what might happen. Not always, but something like if you didn't know, for example, Have You Met Miss Jones, and that bridge hit you with those giant step changes, you'd have no way to know that was coming. But
It's interesting you're
yeah.
talking about this because the relationship between the melody note and the chord, let's just talk about chord changes, for instance. Like when I went to music school, it was more about, just hearing intervals in a sense.
Mhm.
And I wish it was more about just hearing the way the chords moved. I think that's such an important skill. And, when you get on the bandstand like that, that's how it's done, really. You gotta.
Yeah, yeah. And the idea that you really that improvising is just composing sped up really. It's all just composing. And this idea that um Sullivan Fortner was talking about this the other day. He came in and did a master class at Juilliard, which was super amazing. It was a great class. But it was nice to hear him speak about some of the things that I've been talking about for a long time, which is the idea that like rather than there's like a tune, like the melody, and then you have to take a solo, and I'm doing air quotes here when I'm speaking because around the words take a solo, because it's like they shouldn't be two completely separate things. The solo or the part that you improvise, the way Sullivan put it was like improving on the melody, like or continuing the composition past where the composition stops, right? So you just keep building and developing and developing and developing it, and that gets you thinking more about how can I have more integrity between the part I'm improvising and the tune. So, if you were to, in vinyl terminology, drop the needle at any point in that track, you'd still be able to recognize what song it was, you know, through either referencing the melody in your solo or just thematically kind of just, there's a pianist named Jean-Michel Pilk
Oh
up in
yeah, he was my
Montreal.
teacher actually.
Yeah. And he's very avant-garde. But the thing I love about him is that no matter how out he gets, you still always can hear the tune. The thread of the composition is always there no matter what. And Cecil Taylor was like that too. Cecil would write, Cecil sounds pretty in now. If you listen to especially his earlier stuff, it doesn't sound out at all. You hear a composition that goes all the way from the beginning to the end.
The way you're talking about, improvising, and it's you have so much enthusiasm for it. It just seems like it's gone been getting the passion just grows and grows, which is so nice to, because you've been in this business for a long time now, and you got started when you were young. And
Oh
you
yeah.
still wake up the same day, like ready to, this is this music is, that's it, my life.
Yeah, let me add it. Well, what was it? Harold Mabry used to say the piano knows what it can do. It's just waiting to find out what we're going to do with it.
Yeah.
Or another way of putting it, yeah, Larry Willis used to say the odds are 88 to 10. You know, 88 keys to 10 fingers, right?
Yeah, exactly.
How
If
you
the
doing?
piano
Oh,
could talk to you, what do you think it would say at this point in your
you always
life?
say, play me, man. Make me so because Sullivan said this is just a dead piece of wood and metal, right? We have to make it vibrate and speak and make all this music out of it. Like a guitar, it's just a dead piece of wood and metal, right? It's
Yeah.
all how you bring sound out of it.
And even when you see that, like a lot of people think it's about the instrument itself, like you can give like the greatest musician the biggest, crappy instrument and they'll still,
Yeah.
which I've seen done before, which is a bit scary.
It can be done out of survival, like but I'm not advocating for crappy instruments.
Yeah.
I have to say that on the whole, in my 36 roughly year career touring, that pianos have gradually gotten better over the years. Clubs, I think clubs and venues are recognizing the importance of having good instruments for their artists to play on. So really, they just keep, it gets better. But you go to Europe and Japan, like the pianos are unbelievable over there. Just beautiful. Yeah.
We were talking at the beginning of the conversation about, the way I came across your music was through your work with Jim Hall.
Yeah.
Such a special musician. And I've heard you talk a little bit in interviews about working with him, like, he talked about space a lot.
Yes. Yeah. And he was a really well, he always requested in the positive. He had some of that tough love sort of thing, but it was tough love with the emphasis on love. But
Mhm.
it was like undiluted direct love. And he would request in the positive, but he'd be very clear about what he wanted. So, for example, he hired me to work with him at the Vanguard for a week, duo, and we got together and we rehearsed at his house beforehand, just once. Um, but the first night after the first set, he comes up to me and says, "Yeah, man, really love what you're doing, really dig it, but maybe we can, leave a little more space." And I said, "Okay, let me think about how to do that." Because I was very much about, oh, this is a duo, and I was thinking in my brain, I got to fill up, I got to cover the bass line, I got to cover all the rhythm, I got to sound like a whole band by myself. Which is one approach to doing it. And sometimes in some situations that's the right thing to do, but that's not what Jim wanted. So then after the second set, he said the same thing, slightly worded differently. Like, yeah, it was cool, but maybe we can thin it out a little bit. Next night, yeah, love what you're doing, man, but maybe we can, I don't know, open it up. He asked me about six different ways for the same thing. Just leave more space. You're playing too much. And I started to feel after a while like I'm not sure if I know how to leave more space than I am. I was getting down to just kind of single notes and pointillistic things and little, but that is what he wanted. Ultimately, he wanted, I mean, at least when I was playing with him together at the same time, he wanted like a dialogue. He wanted kind of weaving, contrapuntal kind of stuff and single lines, and I guess he liked the kind of lines I played, or he liked my harmonic concept or whatever, and felt that it was complementary to his.
What night did you find, like, I mean, you were at the Vanguard for 5 nights, two
Yeah,
sets a night, so that's ten shows.
yeah.
When did it feel for you that you were giving him musically what he wanted? Do you remember which night it was, or was it?
Somewhere, yeah, somewhere in this third of it, maybe, but and then we finally I kind of figured it out, and then we didn't play together for a while, and then the next time we got together, it was sort of starting over. He's like, "Yeah, man, I really leave my, oh yeah, right, space, like, but like way more space where it really took me out of my comfort zone because I don't know, I got 10 fingers and I want to do stuff all the time. It's just I'm more of a maximalist kind of piano player. So it was a great um a great experience and a great exercise for me to withhold so much, you know.
How did you meet Jim?
Uh I th I can't remember exactly, but I think we had the same manager. A whole bunch of us. Marianne Topper was a manager in New York, and she had all of us were with Diana Krall, Joshua Redmond, Christian McBride, Jim, Ron Carter, and me. We were all with Marianne at the time, Tony Williams too. So
Wow.
sometimes she would try to put some of her artists together in different combinations, you know.
Yeah. You've worked with so many people. The truth of the matter is, you know, you could probably call anyone and if you wanted to and work with them, like in the jazz world of, any drummers or bass players. Let's say you're playing with trio strumming. I'd like to take that question another direction. Um, because we lost so many of these legends,
Yes.
and luckily with technology, we can kind of replicate it with, like, software and play a little with the records sometimes. But who would you have really loved to work with that when you listen to back, you said, "Oh, that would have been special."
Prince. Never got to play with Prince. Um, Even though I'm from that area, I'm from Wisconsin. Like I was like an hour from Minneapolis, but I never got to meet him or be in that camp at all. But Elvin Jones, I would have loved to play with Elvin, never got to. Actually, Tony either, Tony Williams or Elvin Jones. Heard them many times, sat 2 feet from Tony's hi-hat, at the Vanguard, like many nights in a row, but never got to. I met him a couple times, but never got to play.
Yeah.
Yeah,
A lot of when I've asked that question before to a couple other people, just because I've been curious, and a lot of people say Elvin Jones. It's one of the most
yeah,
you know popular answers that they give. So I know that you're talking about playing with Jim Hall, and that's about playing with space. Now, I assume that when you play with Art Blakey, it's the lessons are much different than playing. You know what I mean? It's just you got so much. I'm sure you carry these with you, for the rest of your life. If you could,
yeah.
what about Art? If there was one thing you could take from playing with Art Blakey that you just think about for to keep you, just a life lesson, I guess, a music lesson.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, there was a whole bunch of things, and I have to sort of qualify this by saying I was only 18 years old, so there were a lot of things that I wasn't ready for socially, in the scene, and I didn't have the tools. I hadn't developed the social skills to really handle being in that kind of environment.
I'm sure you saw some things.
Yeah, yeah, it was pretty nuts, but um, musically, I mean, that was the main thing is it was like no matter, and our Art had cancer, and he wasn't really feeling well a lot of the days of that year that I was with him, but he every time he got on the drums, it was like all the problems, all the health problems he had, all the problems of the world, everything just melted away, and it was just this incredible force of nature. It was like literally every ounce of energy he had, he put into the music, into the drums. And he was also really, he was gruff. Everyone talks about art like, oh, he was kind of macho and gruff and everything. But he was really also a really genuinely warm-hearted person. I mean, I tell this story because it was funny to me and also showing how nurturing he was. When we were on tour in Japan when that first whole Gulf War Kuwait thing, what do they call it, Desert Storm, like in
Hmm.
1990, Saddam Hussein and all that. And that whole thing broke out, and we thought, oh, what if there's a draft? Because I think there was like they were talking about maybe having a draft for like a week
Right,
or
right.
something, you know. And it was me and Steve Davis, the trombonist. We were the youngest guys in the band. We were like, what if they, what if we? Art goes, don't worry, fellas. He's, I'm going to do his voice. He says, if the army calls you up, I'll go down there and talk to them. I'll go down there, wherever there is, and talk to them. I mean, just like, don't worry, I'll sort it out. So you guys are jazz musicians.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to ask you about the the thing most jazz musicians who are coming up think about, which is finding your own voice.
Hmm.
And as I've been talking to people, a lot of people, say have just, I've just tried to play the best I can,
Hmm.
or not be afraid to take from non-jazz influences that I grew up with to help, just
Right.
those sounds get in my ear.
Hmm.
Um, I know it's a hard thing to talk about, but was there ever a point where when you were like, I want to be more of myself, something like that when you're coming up and what you did to
I
overcome it?
never thought about it at all. I never worried
Wow.
about it at all. Um, I was too interested in transcribing and learning. I wanted to learn to play like Phineas Newborn. I wanted to learn to play like McCoy and Chick and Bud Powell and Monk and Art Tatum and Ahmad Jamal. Like I didn't care about whether I had my own voice or not. I think that's something that just happens. And the other thing is, you you don't think about it as a finite thing. Like at some point, I'm going to find my own voice, and that is going to be it from my life. Because your own voice, your own style changes as you age, and your music evolves.
It's true.
I mean, look at look at Miles, look at Coltrane. Like they're great examples of people whose music. Mary Lou Williams started as a stride pianist. Duke Ellington started as a stride pianist, and by the time they were 70, they were playing, completely differently, avant-garde, rock, whatever. It was totally different, right? So I wouldn't worry as a young musician about that, you
That's no,
know?
that's great. That's great advice.
Yeah.
Just learn and it's gonna come out
Learn
naturally.
and learn it because I mean, it's a language, right? You learn as a child, you speak whoever your primary caregivers are, that's who you learn to talk like. And then later your friends in high school and in different influences, or you may, get into different movies and start copying the way actors speak or whatever it is. And these things become part of the way you speak.
Yeah. I mean,
But
I guess it's just, because a
yeah.
lot of when there's so many brilliant young people.
Mm,
It's like they're just out there and we don't know about them. And one of the things that you hear people say is like, oh, this person sounds like this person, or they just sound like that.
mm.
But it's like it's so much. That's such a broad statement to say and put someone in that box. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, there are probably there's some pianists I can think of that seem to have particularly glommed onto one or two pianist styles and very, intently and kind of like there's definitely cats out here that play like really a lot like McCoy or really a
Sure.
lot like Bill Evans or Keith Jarrett. It's got acolytes all over the world. And that's cool if that's your thing, but I mean, I don't know. For me, I was always interested in so many different pianists and so many. I mean, we were talking about transcribing, just even within like the jazz realm. I think I transcribed an equal amount of non-pianists as I did pianists. So I was transcribing Woody Shaw and Miles and Coltrane. I did a lot of Coltrane, Sonny Rollins, um, Kenny Garrett, Steve Nelson, um, Clifford Brown, Louis Armstrong. So I was really interested in phrasing. I wanted to be able to phrase like a horn player
Yeah.
does.
Yesterday I did like or no, this weekend I did like a little jazz guitar tribute educational thing, and we started with like Grant Green, then went to Jeff
Yeah.
Beck, and then went to John Schofield.
Yeah.
So it's like I think that, getting what you're saying is that you checked out everybody and that it's okay to not, and we used like not just one instrument in a sense, but like
Yeah.
all these variety of players and as someone, with a voice like yourself, I think that's something that's very valuable.
Alan Holdsworth too. I
Alan
transcribed him.
Holdsworth.
Alan Holdsworth is one of my favorite improvisers, musicians of all time. You know, what I never got to see Coltrane play. People think I'm a lot older than him. Did you ever play with Louis Armstrong? I'm like, come on, wait a minute. You know, he died before I
You're in
was
your
born.
early 50s, right? Or
Yeah, I'm in my early. No, I'm 54. You know, I just.
you look younger, I will say that.
Oh, thanks. But no, Alan Holdsworth. Seeing him play live was energetically what I imagine, seeing the Coltrane Quartet
Really?
would be like. There was so much information in what Alan played. It was like it was really mind-blowing and kind of exhausting, like beautiful and cathartic, but also just exhausting. By the end of it, you were just like, I can't listen to anything.
Where was the concert? Who was he playing with?
I mean, I saw him a few times. I saw him at some festivals. I saw him at Iridium one time with
Yeah,
his
Iridium.
group, but it was like Jimmy Johnson and those cats. But yeah, unbelievable, man.
But but you felt that like something came over you where it's like you're not overwhelmed in a good way, I guess, though, right?
Yeah, overwhelmed in a good way. Yeah, just like you just can't believe the music that's coming out of this human being, you know?
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
this has been, such a great conversation. B Before we wrap up, if it's okay, I could just with just one more question.
Sure.
Yeah, you know, performing has its challenges, and some musicians will say, "Oh, it's home for me," but it's like I think it's very hard, and I've heard people say both things that it's well, it's obviously rewarding, but are there aspects about just performing in general that you still find challenging, whether it's, just certain venues are harder than others, or just certain, some instrumentations you play with might be harder. Like what's challenge is challenging for you in a sense, I guess is what I'm asking.
Um, there's not a lot really. I mean, the main thing is I still get nervous before I play.
Yeah,
People say, you
that's
still
that's
get nervous? Like, oh
yeah.
yeah, I get the butterflies and I'm, the having, the fight or flight thing, you know. But then like once and maybe the first tune I might be a little like a little awkward, but after like a couple tunes, I'm good,
Yeah. It's
And then
okay
this,
to say that, oh, after it's just the first tune, it's okay. We took the flight took off.
yeah, 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 I kind of got to get the, get the jitters out on the first tune, but after that I'm cool, and then like by if we play two sets, by the second set I'm super relaxed, I'm ready to
Yeah.
go.
Is it unrealistic for you, like for an artist to want, as and I'm talking about improvisational, music, for an artist to want that first tune they play to be, as good as the second set midway or something? Like it's just
Yeah,
what it is.
well, I mean maybe, but you also don't want to give away everything on the first tune either.
That's great.
And any show you go to of any kind, musical or dance or theater or whatever, there has to be some surprises later in the show. There has to be it may not be just one, trajectory. There may be multiple peaks and valleys, right? But you don't want to give everything away at the beginning.
I saw it happen. The first tune was so strong and so good. It was like it's like only downhill from here.
Yeah, right, right. You don't want that.
No, no, no. Thank you so much for doing this, and I greatly, greatly appreciate it from the bottom of my heart.
Oh,
Allowing me to ask you these questions, and
yeah.
it's
Thanks
it's
for
so
having me on.
it's so informative for everybody out there. So just want to say thank you again.
Yeah, that's great. Anytime.
Thank you.
Okay.